welcome to the podcast, Katelynn. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. So we just want to kind of get to know you a little bit, introduce you to the listeners, just have a nice little chat. And so, you're pretty new to both acting and Chicago Fire. So tell us, how did you get into acting originally?
Yeah. So, I've kind of had like an affinity from a very early age for like storytelling. I was always the kid that had my nose in a book. I really wanted to be a writer when I grew up. So that kind of drive to create and connect in that way has been in me from a very young age. But I also was such a shy kid and had really, really bad stage fright in middle school. So the idea of like getting up on stage and performing was literally like my worst nightmare. But then my freshman year of high school, I had a couple friends who were getting involved in the school's drama department. And I had done like a little bit of stuff with them up to that point, just like behind the scenes stage crew kind of things. But for this particular show, it was a fall like experimental show where it was called Students on Stage. And it was a series of one-act plays that were completely student written, student directed, and student acted. And my friends were auditioning for the show and really wanted me to audition with them for some reason. And I don't remember how, but they managed to convince me to do it. And from that audition, I just completely fell in love with acting. I very vividly remember reading the sides for the first time, and I was terrified, but I was also really excited and intrigued. And it was like this fire was kind of lit inside of me that I didn't even know was there. And I ended up actually getting one of the lead roles in one of those one-act plays. And that was kind of like the beginning of the end, so to speak. So yeah, from there, I just wanted to be a part of anything that I could get my hands on. And I was really fortunate in high school to have a drama professor that was so passionate about theater and the arts that she wanted nothing more than to share that with her students. And she very much succeeded. Her love was just so infectious that it rubbed off on all the rest of us. So I just want to give her a little shout out. Her name is Kevin Yale Vernon. We call her Vern for short. And probably one of the biggest lessons I learned from her was this speech that she would give before every single opening night performance. That was the amateur or amateur speech. And it essentially boils down to, we were all amateur actors, and the root of amateur is amour, which is to love. And she would say that there is no better reason to do theater than for the love of it. So that really resonated with me. And even to this day is something that really grounds me in my work. And she was the first person to really introduce me to acting as something that could be a realistic career path for me. So yeah, her guidance and support in those early years was major, because I don't know if I would have followed this path otherwise, it might have just been like a hobby. So yeah, she showed me that, and I decided to go for it and see where this path could take me. So majored in acting in college. I was very fortunate and got an agent from my senior showcase, moved to Chicago, and just kind of hit the ground running. So that's so my acting journey in a nutshell to this point.
I love it. Are you fresh out of college?
2 years, almost to the day.
Okay. That's exciting. I love that.
Yeah. That's so cool. So then what was your audition process like for Fire? Because I know I was reading, I think on your IMDb, this is, I think, your first acting role officially?
It is. Yes. Professionally, yes. This is the first TV thing I've ever done. So the process of my audition from start to finish was roughly a week long. So my very first notice for it was a self-tape request, and I almost actually didn't even do it because I got the request pretty late in the day, and I was working one of my part-time jobs at the time and wasn't going to get off my work shift until 8 p.m. that evening, and it was due the next day. So I was like, okay, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to learn these lines? I don't know if I want to go home and set up my self-tape thing and do all the things, but I did it. I learned the lines in like my downtime during my shift and on my way home on the bus. And I was lucky enough to have roommates who were willing to like jump in and be my reader and stuff last minute. So I got the tape done. Didn't know how it turned out, but I sent it off. And then like a day or two later, I got notice that they wanted to come bring me in for a callback. And that was an in-person callback. So I went to Claire Simon like 2 days later, I want to say, and did the in-person audition. And I was so nervous. Like I'd never done anything like that before. I had never met Claire Simon before. So I was super intimidated about that. I kind of just like blacked out a little bit for that audition, but felt pretty good leaving the room. And then that night I got put on first refusal. So like a hold for the role. And then didn't hear anything for about 4 days. And then after that 4 days, I got an email from my agent and they were saying that they wanted to see like more material from me essentially. So I sent off, like cobbled together some auditions that I had done because I was fresh out of college, I didn't really have any professional footage to send them. But luckily I had done a few videos with the video services department of my college. So I sent them the auditions, waited for 2 more days, and then got the call that I had got the role, which was crazy too, because the role of Kylie originally was only supposed to be like 2, maybe 3 episodes tops. So the fact that they've kept me around for this long is just mind blowing. Like I'm still pinching myself about it.
That's fantastic.
So cool.
That's great. So how familiar were you with the shows before you auditioned? Were you familiar with the idea of a shared universe?
I definitely had heard of the shows and knew a little bit about it, but hadn't really watched anything other than like little here and there what my family would watch like when I was growing up. But yeah, didn't really know a ton about it going into it. And then watched a little bit of season 8 just to prep for my audition. But yeah, it was very, very new for sure.
What do you think about, oh, sorry, Brenda, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, what do you think about the idea of a shared universe on this scale?
I think it's really, really cool. I mean, especially because that very much is how those, those areas interact in real life with like the hospital and the cops and the firefighters. So it's such a cool idea to bring that all together into one show. So then you get to not only see the way that these departments maybe interact in real life, but also you get to see all your favorite characters and the crossovers. It's just like the room for opportunity is so grand, and that's such a fun space to get to play in.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, I know you said you went back and watched a little bit of season 8. Have you ever gone back and watched any of like the older seasons?
I haven't yet. That's one of the things that's on my to-do list, but I haven't made it there yet. I've watched all of season 8 and then all of this season, but yes, working on it.
That's cool. So in terms of Kylie as a character, we know that a lot of actors typically like bring a little bit of this themselves to the characters they play, but like in what ways would you say that you are similar to Kylie, and what ways do you think you're different from Kylie?
For sure. I would say Kylie and I are definitely more similar than we are different. For one thing, we have that newbie-ness about us coming into this like very well-oiled machine and kind of finding our footing, finding our place, still having so much to learn and so much to prove. So I very much relate to her in that regard. But also just like her deep drive and passion for wanting to help people and really wanting to make some kind of a positive impact in the world. I know that's something me personally, I strive towards. And I think that was something that very much initially drew Kylie into the Girls on Fire program initially, was just like, the poster of like, are you a badass? It's like almost a challenge, but also like, you want to rise to meet it. You want to prove that you can make this difference. So I resonate with her in that way. And I also feel like we both try to lead with positivity and hope, even when maybe our own lives have things going on under the surface, you know, even if we're dealing with things, like trying to bring that positive light and just be as uplifting as you can. And yeah, I think that's something we share. I would say we differ the most in how do we honestly, her struggles with money and her family. I'm very fortunate to not have been put in a position where I've had to, you know, work to help my family make ends meet. And you know, we find out with her working this donut shop job that like she doesn't really have that choice. So that's definitely somewhere where we differ. I think that I've never had to go through that kind of hardship before, and I admire her a lot for the strength that she has persevering through that experience.
Nice. And so the majority of Kylie's scenes are with Stella. Bryna actually talked to Miranda the other day, and she went on about how much she loves you and how awesome you are. And so your turn to tell us, what is it like working with Miranda?
Oh my gosh, I don't have enough good things to say about working with Miranda. Like truly, she took me under her wing from day one when I was shooting my very first scene out on the apron, and it was really cold that day, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember I was like taking the clipboard from her in the scene, and my hands were like shaking and a little purple, and she was like, no, we're gonna go get you like heat packs for your hand right now. So she did that, and like I leaned over to her at one point and was like, is this going okay? Like, am I doing all right? And she was like, you're killing it, like don't even stress. And so even from that first day, she welcomed me into the fold so quickly and with so much love, and that's just increased the more we've gotten to work together. I've gotten to go over to her house a few times and spend some time with her one-on-one, and we just connect in such a cool way, and she challenges my art in a way that I love, and getting to play and explore with her is just, it's been so much fun. I truly gush about her all the time. Like
so do we.
Yeah. I was gonna say she full on gushed about you, so clearly.
My whole heart.
So since Kylie started working at the Firehouse, we've gotten to obviously seen her interact with a few other people other than Stella. Like, is there anyone though you haven't really gotten to work with yet on the Fire cast that you would want to?
Ooh, I would like to interact with the paramedics a little bit more. I think doing things with Brett and Violet would be so much fun, just to get to know them not only more as people, but just playing in that sphere a little more. I think I would really enjoy that.
That's great. Awesome. So I'm curious what the fan reaction has been like, you know, if you've heard any feedback like that, because I mean, frankly, let's be real. Kylie skyrocketed to popularity when she single-handedly saved Stella Ride. So yes. What has the fan reaction been like? What has the feedback been like?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. Like I've gotten so many people who have reached out to me specifically about the Stella Ride thing, which I was so surprised by. But just like so much love and support. I've had people say like Kylie's one of my favorite characters and she inspires me so much, which is like all that I want to do with my acting, is just inspire people to, you know, be their best selves, or to lift them out of a bad mood, or whatever it may be. Like, so hearing that from people that, you know, my little bit of screen time has inspired them in some way has been really incredible. Yeah.
Oh, love it.
And I know, like you kind of mentioned, like you're not always around, but despite not always being around, like I feel like seen a lot of growth from Kylie in the last, little bit, which I think is also really on display in this week's episode. And I'm curious, like, where would you like to see Kylie go from here?
I mean, end goal, I would really love to see her as like a full firefighter, you know, like I think that Stella Kid is like her dream icon role, you know, like I think that is the trajectory that she is aiming for. So I mean, in that regard, I would love to see her get more involved with plot lines like this week's episode, where she's really, getting into the nitty gritty of these emergencies and kind of getting to help out in a more direct way. Like that was such a fun thing to get to do, and to get to be on set like a whole day. That was crazy. But yeah, that's, I think, what I would like to see is her getting in the fray a little bit more as time goes on. I also really want to try out the firefighter gear, the full gear. I would love to see what that feels like. I've heard so many things.
Brenna's done it. You've done it, Brenna.
Yeah, I did get to put it on. It's wild. It's wild. It's so heavy, and I can't even imagine. I can't. I wore it for like 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to take this off.
Too much, yes.
That's funny. Yeah. That's funny. And so, what do you have a favorite scene that you filmed so far? Is there anything that sticks out?
Ooh, favorite scene. I mean, apart from this week's episode, because everything about this week's episode I just love with my whole heart. But apart from that, I would say my favorite scene was with Eamon, Chief Bowden, in his office with the standing desk, where she comes in and she's like, look, just be straight with me. Like, you don't need to be treating me any kind of way. Like, just be honest. Like, this needs to be an open relationship, like I loved filming that scene with Eamon. And at one point I remember saying the line, like, I learned something new every day here. And it was just so true, like, for me as a person. And that was the first time I'd really gotten to work in depth with Eamon too. And he's just such a remarkable actor, and just being around him and watching him work is like mind blowing. I just literally learned so much every day. So that scene was really fun to get to film.
We loved the callback to it in this week's episode when Donna,
the standing desk is like becoming its own character.
Yeah, it's so good. If you could guest star on Chicago Med or PD, is there a character or actor you would be most excited to work with?
Ooh, that is a good question. I don't know, to be honest.
Have you ever watched either one of them?
I've watched like snippets. I've watched little like 1 or 2 episodes here or there. Okay. Yeah, so I don't have a very good answer for that one. I'm sorry.
All good.
Good. It's okay. And since this is your first ever acting role, I mean, the sky's the limit here. So is there a specific role or type of character that you would love to just cross off your bucket list?
Ooh, I've always been in love with like fantasy kind of characters. Like I love the dystopian universe. Like those were always my favorite types of novels to read. So if I could get to play in some kind of like dystopian world or like a vampire thing like that, I think would be a lot of fun to do. That's definitely one of the things I would like to do at some point in my life.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. So we're big TV fans, and so we always like to ask when actors come on the podcast, like, what are you watching on television right now?
Yes. So I've been on a big Apple TV kick for the last couple of months because I got a free 2-month trial from my Uber points or whatever. So just a hot tip there. But so I've been in the middle right now watching The Morning Show, and it's phenomenal. Like the acting from the first episode, like it just sucks you in, and the plot is so layered. There's so much going on. Like I'm 3 episodes from the end now, I want to say, and I can't wait to see how it ends. So that's been the one that I'm in the middle of right now. And then I recently just finished watching Ted Lasso.
Yes,
it's so good. I just
so
love the way they blend like the American comedy with the British comedy, and it's still like comedic but also really deep and emotional, and the character growth. Keely, I think, is my favorite character. All of her like witty one-liners, so good. Did
you see they announced season 2 premieres in July?
Oh my gosh, that's right. That means we're gonna have to get more Apple TV.
That's what they suck you in. That's how they do it.
Exactly. Yes. So those are the 2 shows that I just recently watched, and I'm also a big anime lover. So I'm in the middle of watching Inuyasha right now. It's kind of an older one, but that's like the very first anime that I ever watched. So I'm doing a rewatch of it with my boyfriend. And we also just watched Demon Slayer, which is like one of the biggest movies in Japan right now, I want to say, and it's playing in theaters. So we just recently went and watched like the dubbed version on a movie screen, and that was such a wild experience to like see an anime on this massive movie screen. So a little bit different, but also something I've been into lately.
I'm
That's
just curious,
awesome.
what was it like being back in a theater for the first time since the
Crazy.
pandemic?
So crazy. The only reason we did it was because we're fully vaccinated now, and we were
Right.
like, okay, let's just like test the waters, feel it out, and it felt very safe. Like no red flags. But it was really nice just to like eat movie theater popcorn again. I'm like a big popcorn lover. My whole family is. So yeah, getting to eat movie theater popcorn again was like really nice.
Sure. So if you're a popcorn lover, surely you've had the Chicago style popcorn from Garrett's while you've been in
Of
Chicago,
course.
right? Just checking.
Of course.
Priorities.
Yes.
I just checking. Priorities.
A necessary question.
Yeah. I love it.
And I'm just curious, like, I don't know if you can tease this or not, but do we see more of Kylie this season, or was this week it for this season?
You get one more glimpse of her.
Okay.
One more glimpse.
Okay.
That's all.
Double check, just double check.
Love it. Well, I think that's about all we've got. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Tell everybody real fast, where can we find you on social media?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is at Katelynn K Shennett. That's KATELYNN KSHENNETT. A little long, but that's really the main place where you can find me. I'm not like super great at social media, but I'm trying to get better with Instagram. So yeah, feel free, reach out. I'll get back. I'm usually fairly okay. Sometimes it takes me a little while to respond, but yeah. Thank you so much for having me on to do this.
No, of course. Thank you for coming on, and we'll sure have you back at some point for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to.